Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is a video recording of the July Satsang in 2022 with Hale Dwoskin. You can find out more information about the Sedona method or Hale Dwoskin at sedona.com. Enjoy the Satsang.
The honor is mine.
And I will tell you that as I've looked at your materials, of course, everybody's heard of the Sedona method. But as I looked at your materials, I was so delighted to see that what a good match you were for us, because I mean, there was nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So your teachings are the teachings. Truth is truth, no matter who's talking about the truth, and we certainly see that with you and your materials. I am so delighted to discuss your approach to the truth with you tonight.
Well, I look forward to it. Should be fun.
Yeah. So let me tell the rest of y'all about. I'm going to read Hale's biography that he provided for us. He has dedicated more than 4 decades to teaching and sharing the Sedona method. The Sedona method is designed to help people alleviate their suffering, actualize their goals, and discover the truth of who they are. Hale is the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Sedona Method, and co-author of Happiness is Free, and It's Easier Than You Think, with his teacher, Lester Levinson. Hale is one of the featured teachers in the book and movie phenomenon, The Secret, as well as a featured teacher in Rhoda Byrne's latest book, The Greatest Secret. He's also featured in the movie Letting Go, which I watched this afternoon and highly recommend. It's a great movie. Yeah, great introduction to what you all are doing, Hale. Hale's the director of training, lead teacher, and spokesperson of Sedona Training Associates, an organization created to promote the emotional releasing techniques inspired by his friend, mentor, and original teacher, Lester Levinson. He's also a founding member of the Transformational Leadership Council. If you would like to hear more about the Sedona method or Hale Dwoskin, you can find him at www.sedona.com. You can find him on Facebook by looking up the Sedona method. You can find him on YouTube, same thing. The Sedona method on Instagram. I think you can find him just about anywhere by typing in the Sedona.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Hale, if you will, please, I thought a great place to start is for you to, and I know this is asking a lot. I just watched a movie, which is a little over an hour, Letting Go, that told me about the Sedona method. But I'm going to ask you to start by telling us a little bit about the Sedona method. Give us a little summary of that, if you will.
Oh, sure. So what all is already freedom, right here, right now. Before, during, and after any exploration, any method, any inquiry, anything else that you try to add or subtract from that is also that beauty, that radiance, that boundlessness, that which is, that all is. And that includes you and me, except there actually isn't a separate you or me. There is just this one energy that is already freedom. Now, what the Sedona method does is, and unfortunately for most of us, this isn't how we experience life. We experience life as a person. We believe we were born, we'll live a certain amount of time, and we will die. Most of us, despite the fact that we've been told the opposite, live and act and feel as though we are a person in a body, in a world that's separate from us. And because of that, it's very helpful to have tools that show us how to let go of the inner limitations that appear to lock us into this separate identity, and also cause this separate identity to suffer and to be less capable of just being awake, alive, engaged in life in a full way. And so what the Sedona method is, it's a group of tools that show you both how to self-actualize, but also how to self-realize, and even beyond that, because even self-realization is still for a self. The freedom that all is beyond the sense of self. So what we do is we experientially help you discover a natural ability that we all have that we don't always use, and that's the natural ability to let go of whatever apparent limitation we have. And I say apparent because all sense of limitation is really just an appearance. That which is actually, or that which is apparently happening in this moment, is actually free of all limitation. Yet again, because that's not how we experience it, there have been a series of tools, a whole group of tools that's loosely referred to as the Sedona method, that show you how to tap this natural ability to let go of whatever is holding you back on every level. So that's what the Sedona method is in a nutshell. There you go.
Thank you, son. I could not unmute myself. So thank you for doing that for me. And that threw me a little bit. So give me just a second to settle back.
Oh, take your time. We have all the time in the world. Actually, there's no time, so certainly take your time, since you're not taking anything.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But it did say something that really caught my attention, and I love that. What is happening in this moment is free of all limitations.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And that is what we are. Correct?
Yes. Well, it is what is. When we say what we are, again, I never recommend people change their languaging based on whatever level of understanding they have, because then it becomes artificial. But because we're having a discussion about these concepts, I'm going to be a little more exacting than I would be in just an average conversation. You know, some people, years ago when non-duality became very popular, there was a lot of censoring how you speak and how you talk and how you act, because you're supposed to sound like you know the truth of who you are, except sounding it is not the same as beingness. And beingness doesn't care what language you use. It's just what is. So language is not important. But that's apparently happening in this moment, which appears to be I'm speaking to you and everyone else is watching on their own computer at home or in their office, that is already freedom. It has no limitations. It's boundless. We, seeing it from the perspective of believing we are a person, it appears to have all sorts of limitations. It's limited in time and space and in our conceptual frameworks that when we believe we're a person, or it's even more than a belief, we experience ourselves as a person, we take on imaginary beliefs, beliefs that are imaginary limitations. So that which is apparently happening already has no limits. It's completely boundless and unlimited. And so that is already. Everything else that we do is to explore this can help all the beliefs to the contrary fall away, but even the beliefs to the contrary don't limit us, actually. They don't limit what is in any way.
We just believe that they do, and then we're kind of stuck with that, right?
Well, we're not really stuck with it. We act as though it's true.
Yes.
we feel it's true, but we've all acted in ways that we later regretted. We all believed things that we learned that weren't true. And so, yes, it may appear that their limitations are real, and they are real on some level. They're both real and unreal for the imaginary person. But in actuality, they have no reality or solidity whatsoever. It's just an appearance.
Would you mind terribly if we backed up and talked about how you learned of the techniques that you teach in the Sedona method?
Oh, not at all, not at all. I was a ardent seeker even at a very young age, and I had done many things both from the East and West. And back in 1976, I was organizing a seminar for Leonard Orr, who had at the time something called Theta Seminars, and they did one-year seminars. And the New York one-year seminar, I was one of the organizers of it. And Lester Levinson, who is my original mentor, the man who inspired this work, came as a guest to the seminar. And I didn't really notice him in the seminar. He was a very unassuming guy. He didn't try to stick out in any way. He was just an older guy, the way I saw him. Sweet, he seemed sweet, but I didn't have any conversation with him. But fortunately, Leonard and the co-organizer and I and Lester went out to lunch. And as I sat across from him at the table at lunch, it wasn't so much what he said, but what he was a living embodiment of that resonated very deeply with me. And so I asked him what he did, and he said that we teach something called, at the time it was called mind freedom. So now we changed that name because it can be misconstrued. And he said, you sit around the table and release. And I had no idea what that was. This is 1976. This is, releasing back then was beating pillows.
Right.
So, but I thought if it could give me just a fraction of what he was a living embodiment of, I was in. So there was a course starting the next weekend. I signed up for it with knowing not much more than what I just said. I brought a friend with me and we took the course. And before the course was even over, I had this deep knowingness that this is what I was going to dedicate my life to. And that was 1976. And I've never looked back. Of course, it could change in any time, who knows? But it's been going for a while. Yeah. So that's how I got exposed to it. And then over time, I got more and more involved with it, and was trained as as an instructor. And then in the early 90s, Lester, in the late 80s, I let go of a six-figure income to work for Lester in Arizona for free. I was still living in New York. I felt that strongly about it. And then in the early 90s, he gave all his copyrights to me and said, you're going to keep this going. He did it even while I was still alive. And I actually fought him a little on it because I didn't feel worthy. I was still a young man and had a whole life in front of me, and I couldn't understand why he would even consider it. But he insisted, so he said that after I'm gone, what you'll do is you'll keep evolving this technique. And that's what's happened. When I first inherited the method from Lester, there was one way of letting go, and that's just deciding to drop it. Now there is at least 5. And they all support each other. They're all pointing at the same thing. Yet the work has continued to evolve over the decades.
So at first there was just the releasing method.
Well, there was just deciding to drop it, but we've added over the years welcoming, allowing what is to be as it is, diving in. If you dive into the core of any emotion, what you discover, it's much ado about nothing. It's like poking a soap bubble. It's not really as substantive as it appears. Then we added holistic releasing, which is this entire illusion is made up of pairs of opposites. It's like heads and tails of the same coin, but they're opposing energies that keep this illusion appearing real. And so you from the perspective of the illusion, you can't have one without the other. You can't have me without other. You can't have here without there. You can't have right without wrong. You can't have good without bad. But how most of us live our lives is we try to keep the two separate. And we don't realize that if you welcome both, they dissolve each other, revealing that they're both illusory.
Yeah, I want this, not that, is what.
Right, exactly. That's how we live our lives. Yeah. And that keeps us struggling, keeps us suffering. So we developed a way of helping collapse those polarities. And then the last way of letting go we teach is something that's evolved in its name. At first it was called the fifth way, not for any esoteric reason, because it was the fifth way of releasing. I only discovered afterwards that Lester called self-inquiry the fifth way. And so what it is it's a series of questions that help you discover what's beyond even the need of letting go. It can also be called the free way or the no way, because eventually, if you can, what can happen is that sense of separation drops away, and then there's no longer a way, because there's nowhere to go and no one to go there. There is just this freedom that I mentioned already. Now, it is already, but it's when the sense of separate individual drops away, it's obvious. So what we do with our work is we help people deal with their lives as they are by releasing anything inside of us that's obstructing us. And then we keep going beyond that to recognize that there is something beyond what we think is real and true and meaningful and important. Something that is boundless, that you could also call unconditional love.
I was struck that with what you said about Lester, that's right?
Yes.
Calling the fifth way self-inquiry, because it sounded a little bit like that's what the fifth way now is.
Well, it is. It in some ways it is. It doesn't just use the standard fifth way question of who or what am I, but it asks other questions like what is apparently happening, or is that actually happening in this moment? Things that help you disengage from whatever story or limitation you appear to be engaged in the moment. So there are many different questions that help with that.
Yeah. So what in the time that we have tonight, what would you like to share with folks about how to let go of these blocks, of these unwanted feelings?
Well, why don't we just let's start with the first way of letting go.
Sure.
And then we'll see what else comes up. I assume this is going to be interactive so that people in the audience can ask questions too?
Absolutely.
Well, that's wonderful, because what I can do is I can, in addition to, I'll present a little more material, and then it's probably best if we just open it up, and then I'll see what's appropriate for each person. And then perfect. Out of that will come whatever it does.
That's perfect.
I don't really have an agenda whatsoever.
And I have lots of questions written, but I'd much rather not have an agenda as well.
Good, 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 wonderful. So let me just get a pen or a pencil. So those of you at home may want to do this with me. It doesn't have to be with a pen or a pencil, but just pick up some object that you can hold in your hand. It could be your pen, a pencil, a paper clip. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure it's something you'd be comfortable letting go of. So for the sake of this analogy, this pen that I'm holding, or whatever object you're holding, represents your sense of individuality, your sense of limitation, the feeling of I can't, I don't know how, I'm afraid. All limiting thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and ideas. And your hand represents your gut or awareness or just what actually is. Now, close your hand around the object and grip it really tightly. Now, if you did this long enough, it would start to feel really uncomfortable and actually really familiar, because this is what we generally do with our limitation. We grip to it so tightly that we forget it's separate from us, that it isn't who we are. So now open your hand and roll the object around in your hand. Now, is this object attached to your hand? Obviously not. But if you think about how you feel about your limitations, generally you don't feel like you don't even say you don't say I'm angry. You don't usually say I feel angry. You say I'm angry. You don't usually say I feel sad. You say I'm sad. You don't usually say I feel like I failed at this. You say I'm a failure. You take on these beliefs and these feelings as though you are it. You create a sense of ownership over it. But it isn't attached to you. It's as attached to you as this object is attached to your hand. Now close your hand lightly around the object, turn your hand upside down, and just drop it. Just let it go. That's how easy it can be to let go of any even long-standing sense of limitation. And again, I'm not just saying that based on theory. I've been doing this for over 4 decades. Hundreds of thousands of people all over the world do this on a regular basis, many of them all day long. So I'm going to take us through the very first way of letting go. And this is incredibly simple, and that's part of the reason it's as powerful as it is, because of its simplicity. I sometimes say, truth is simple. If it was complicated, everyone would understand it. But life is really way simpler than it appears. So the first thing we'll do is just focus on anything that you'd like to feel freer about, anything that you'd like to change or improve in your life. And then there'll be an invitation to welcome or allow whatever you're thinking or feeling about it. And I'll say, could you welcome whatever you're thinking or feeling? And then the core releasing questions are, could you let it go? Just could you? And could you just means, are you capable of it? And if you were able to drop that object or even imagine it a moment ago, then I know you can. The next question is, would you? And would you just means, are you willing to? And if you're doing this on your own and you're struggling, you can ask yourself, would I rather hold on to this thought or feeling or limitation or belief or whatever it is? Or would I rather be free and have my goals? And the last question is when? And when is an invitation to decide to do it now. And so when you do this, you don't have to say yes. No is a completely acceptable answer. I'll take you through the process. We'll do it together. And you don't have to try to shut off your mind. Your mind will be evaluating it. That's what minds do. The only thing I recommend when I ask the questions of you, you can answer them quietly to yourself and just say yes or no without censoring yourself, and just avoiding debate as best you can, and lead with your heart as opposed to your head as best you can. But even that is not critical. it works even if your head is leading. It's just the more your heart leads, the more you'll feel it, and the more obvious it will be. And so let's do this together. I'm going to do it with everyone as a group, so I don't put anyone on the spot.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So you want us to focus on the problem?
Well, I'll take us through it.
Okay.
I'll take us through it. It will be very clear.
Okay.
But thanks for asking. We want to make sure everyone's comfortable.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you. So, by the way, you can do this with eyes open or eyes closed. We encourage people who learn this to get comfortable both ways, because we spend a lot more time every day with eyes open. And if you think you need to close your eyes in order to do this, it could be a limitation. However, when you're first learning it, if it feels easier to close your eyes, please do. So allow yourself to review the story called your life and check to see if there's anything that you're wanting to change or improve. It could be with your health, about money, about relationships, or it could be about what you believe about awakening or truth or your level of understanding. So, and just take the first thing that comes to mind. And whatever comes to mind, could you just simply welcome it? Whatever that is, just allow it to be here. Be present with it. And just do this as best you can. And then could you welcome whatever thought or feeling it brings up inside of you? Could you just allow it, at least for now? Be present with it. And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? Now you may have noticed something let go on could you, would you, when, or a combination thereof. You may even have noticed the letting go just by welcoming or allowing the thoughts and feelings about whatever it is that we were just releasing on. But we just ran through it once. Let's run through it one or two more times so you get more of a sense of it. Now, again, this is incredibly simple. It is the very first step, but there are many other ways of applying this work. But it's such a universal step that we've seen people let go of fears and phobias and change jobs and careers, start relationships, end relationships, and even have awakening type experiences just by using these simple questions. So be open to the simplicity of it. So again, focus on that same thing or anything else that you'd like to change or improve. And could you welcome whatever that stirs up inside of you? Whatever it is. And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? By the way, sometimes you will smile or laugh when a release happens. Not always. Sometimes they're just silent. But one of the things you'll notice as you really start letting go a lot is you laugh a lot more and a lot more easily. And sometimes releases are accompanied by laughter. In fact, true laughter is one of the ways that we gain relief through releasing without even knowing it. It's a natural way for the body to discharge unwanted energy. That's why we like to laugh so much.
And for me, the laughter was a result of seeing the absurdity of holding it.
Yes. You'll get insights, which will happen. Sometimes are very large releases in and of themselves. When we see the absurdity of what we're holding on to, or the absurdity of believing a particular story, or the absurdity of feeling like we're limited by whatever it is that seemed to be limiting us, sometimes that in and of itself is a big release. So, should we do it one more time? Or, okay. So again, allow yourself to focus on that same thing or anything else that you're wanting to change or improve. Doesn't matter what it is. And then could you welcome however it feels inside as you focus on it? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When?
Why not, right?
Right, why not? So again, this is something you can start practicing immediately on your own, even if you never learn more about the Sedona method. And it's a tremendous aid in whatever practice or process you're already doing. When you get yourself out of the way, everything becomes more and more effortless until that sense of self drops away completely, and then life is never the same.
When you say that sense of self drops away completely, is that the same thing that we hear teachers talking about when they're talking about letting go of ego?
Well, yes and no. Ego is very misconstrued, and they're different. I've seen for as number of teachers there's different definitions of ego. And so, yes, the sense of I'm here, you're there, I know anything, I own, I'm separate, I'm an individual, all of that is the sense of self. Anytime, even when you're working on yourself, it's usually from a sense of self. You are working on yourself. Even when you're aware of whatever it is that's happening in this moment, it's because you are aware. So that's still the sense of self. That's still part of the dream or the appearance of me. And that can drop away. And that dropping away is really not in a direct line relationship to any practice or process, including all the ones we teach. The practices and processes really help the person to be more comfortable and more open and more alive and more at ease and more capable. But that which truly is doesn't need a practice or a process. It just is. And that includes the sense of you and me. Yet the sense of you and me is just an appearance. It's not actually real.
But as we do these practices, it seems to me that we begin to get a sense that we aren't limited by
absolutely
that we've adopted, and it's kind of a snowball thing, right?
Well, yes and no. There is certainly a snowball. There is a momentum that happens for sure. And there feels like there's greater and greater freedom. And yes, I mean, and you can actually start to live in a very blissful state, very open state, a very alive and aligned state, a very harmonious state, but it's still a state.
Right.
That which is beyond all states is what actually already is in this moment, even beyond this moment. Even this moment refers to time.
Yes.
So there's not actually a straight line relationship to that which is already and all the things we do to try to discover it. The things that we do to try to discover it don't really affect what already is. There's nothing wrong with them. They're actually can be incredibly beneficial, but they don't actually affect what actually already is.
Yeah, what the phrase that keeps going through my mind, I know it has been said 1,000, 10,000 times, and that is that the practices don't cause the accident, but make you accident prone.
Yes, that's a Buddhist expression. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More willing to well, I was going to say to accept it, but to recognize it isness when it presents itself.
Yes, but even that isn't necessary. Isness doesn't need to be recognized. It already is. Do those trees behind you outside need to be recognized to be trees?
They're there.
they're just there. Does the sun need to be recognized to shine?
No.
So even the recognition is for the person. Yet at the same time, when the person drops away, and by the way, what most people go through is the person disappears and everything seems amazing to no one, and then the person reappears. And that also can be confused with the end state. But the end state is beyond states. Mm-hmm. There's just simply, there is no person, and there never really was.
What Ramana Maharshi may have called pure consciousness.
Yes, yeah, Ramana called it Sahaj Samadhi. But he also called it natural. It's yes. What's natural.
Yes. So it seems to me that the practices, I think I hear you telling me not to practice. Are you telling me
No. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not saying don't practice. I'm saying that the practice doesn't affect the freedom that already is, but it's tremendously helpful as long as as long as there's any experience of being a person
yes.
in a body, as opposed the actuality of breathing and hearing and tasting and touching and feeling, all that is just awareness, beingness, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling. It's not doing it, it is it. In other words, that's the lamp next to you is beingness lamping.
Yes. Yes.
The wall behind me is beingness or boundlessness walling.
Yes.
And that already is. But what the practices do for the genuine practices do is they quiet the mind, they open the heart, they do all these wonderful things for the person. And so there's tremendous benefits to the person in doing a practice, except it won't, ultimately, it doesn't, the freedom is not for the person, it's from the person.
Yes. I understand.
And the person can't let go of itself.
Ever. Yes.
Right. But it can drop away because it never really was.
And do the practices that you're recommending, do they lead to the dropping away, or is that
they don't lead anywhere yet? Many people who do these practices find that not only does their life turn around, but they experience this continual state of peace and happiness and joy, until the sense of me disappears. That last disappearance is spontaneous. It's not in control of the apparent person. And there are many people who have had profound awakening experiences using the Sedona method. However, they're still just experiences. And then there's some that where the whole sense of me has dropped away. And that was coincidental to the Sedona method. So am I saying don't do practices? Of course not.
Yes, I hear you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually, I believe you were leading us in the exercises or in the exercise of releasing, and it actually occurs to me that where we might have been heading was to ask whether anyone wanted to do that on a one-on-one basis.
Well, actually, they can share, they can ask a question about any of this, or I can work with them, or they can just say, hey, I have a topic that I'm struggling with, but I don't want you to work with me on it. Could you do a release about that for everyone? So all of that is on the table.
Okay, it's open, y'all. Anish has a question or a comment or something. Anish.
Hi, Anish.
Hale, can you hear me?
Say again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, for a second I heard you fine, and now you're very muted. Now I can hear you just barely.
Let me change a few things.
Yeah, it's coming in and out, but that's better.
Is this better now?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Thank you for your time today. I have a question about the exercise you just led us through.
Sure.
So I picked up fear that I wanted to drop.
Yes, yes.
And my question really was around, what do you mean by letting go? I mean, I can let go of the fear intellectually, but the emotion still feels around. It's not. I'm not able to let go of the emotion.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yes, when you let it go intellectually, it takes a little bit of the froth off the top. But when you let go from your heart, most of us are walking around like this inside, especially if we have the contraction that we call fear. It feels like this inside, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel tight? So you've seen this position. This is this is pranam, or just a prayer position. But one of the things you can do is, everyone do this with me, and you too, Anish. Just put your hands together and think of any issue that you'd like to feel freer about. And keep your eyes open for this, because it also is a visual. So then just take your hands apart as you just open inside. You don't have to think about it. Just gradually take your hands apart and just allow yourself to just open, as though you're opening a fist inside as you're doing that. Now, that doesn't require a lot of thought. That's how much thought is required to let go. With the exercise where we dropped the pen, did you have to think about dropping the pen? You may have had to think about, hey, I don't want to drop it. So you're getting up to it, you might be thinking, well, that's a silly exercise. I don't know if I even need to do it or want to do it. Or you may have thought, I don't know if I want to drop it on the floor. It's one of my favorite pens. So, and all that's fine. But the actual just opening your hand, that didn't require thought. Well, letting go is the same way. It's just an opening inside, like we did when we took our hands apart. That's what I mean by it.
So would you say it's more like a willingness to let go, instead of the actual act of letting it go? Just so I understand it better, or are you just saying that it's just like a gut feeling that you just want to let it go and there's not much thought into it?
Yes, yes. But it's all of that and none of that. Again, you're leading a little with your head as opposed to your heart. You want to get it intellectually. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful. Except to truly get it, or to feel it more, not to truly get it, because it's not something you can get or lose, but to feel it more requires a little more of a heart engagement. So why don't I show you something that will help with that?
Please.
So one of the things that's helpful if you're thinking about it too much is just put your hand over your solar plexus. And remember, the purpose of this is to remind yourself to stay focused here as opposed to here. So that's one thing that helps. So that's one thing that you can use when you're letting go. You can also use this at first. Just picture yourself doing this inside as you're letting go. That is also very helpful. But the other thing is the wanting to know or understand is a place that we all get caught, the wanting to figure it out. The more we know, the more we want to know. And we're all very attached to knowing. We think if we know enough, we'll be safe. If we know enough, we'll be smart. If we know enough, we'll be recognized. If we know enough, we'll be more effective in life. And in some cases, it's true. You know, you have to know how to operate a piece of equipment, otherwise someone shouldn't let you use it. But with this, the less you know, the easier it is. Because it's not about knowing, it's about feeling and being, which doesn't require knowing. And so why don't I do a release for everyone? I'm not going to single you out, but let me do a release with everyone on wanting to know. And so just in this moment, could you just simply pause or stop? And just notice what's apparently happening, whatever that is. And then check to see if there's anything in your life that you're wanting to understand, you're wanting to figure out, you're wanting to make sense of, including all the weird stuff I've said so far. And could you welcome that feeling of wanting to understand? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to understand, of wanting to figure it out? Would you? When? And again, welcome any remaining wanting to understand it or wanting to figure it out or wanting to make sense of it. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Remember, the wanting to know doesn't equal knowing. We often think that we need to want to know in order to know, but the wanting to know blocks our intuitive knowingness. And so when you let go of wanting to know, things open and change in a very positive way. So again, if there's anything you're wanting to understand or know or figure out in this moment, could you just simply welcome that wanting to know, wanting to understand, the wanting to figure it out? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? And when? Okay, good. So did you notice any relief from that, Anish?
Yeah, I notice glimpses of peace, meaning I don't really have to figure it out. And
Yes.
I can let it be, or it may be here, or it may disappear, but it doesn't really bother me as much. So
Exactly.
What about Hale experiences? Suppose I want to let go of an experience. Would success mean that the experience changes, or is it just my emotions around that experience would kind of discharge.
The first step is the emotions dissipate and discharge. Over time, you may actually see the experience from a very different point of view, but I wouldn't force that. You don't try to let go of the experience itself. It's much more helpful and powerful and effective to focus on just the emotional charge that's left on the experience. And often that does change behavior. It changes how people react to you, it changes how you react to yourself, changes a lot of things in a very positive way.
Thank you. It's very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that, Hale. Before I call on the next person, I do want to say that letting go of wanting to know reminded me of your discussion of what you said, when you want something instead of having it, you never seem to get it.
Right, right. One of the tenets of the basic part of the Sedona method is that want equals lack. You don't wake up in the morning and want desperately to be a Jacquelyn. You already feel like you have that. Sometimes you don't want to be not that. Depends on the day. And often we get confused. We think if I want money enough, I'll get it. But what we've discovered over the past decades of working with people all over the world is that the more you're at peace, the more accepting you are of what is as it is, then you're much more likely to say, do, and be in ways that allow for whatever it is that you were wanting to come into experience. The more you let go of wanting, the more you have a feeling of having.
Yeah, I'm not focused on what I think I have a lack of.
Right.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Marisol.
Hi, Hale.
Hi.
Jacquelyn. It's so nice to speak with you, Hale, because I discovered the Sedona method back in the early 2000s.
Oh, you've found out a while ago.
A long time ago, and I bought the program, and I just experienced a huge sense of relief doing the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so interesting right now because it's kind of like come full circle for me right now, because here I see how similar the practice was to what I'm currently doing a lot of now here with Awakening Together, which is the loving all method, which is kind of just accepting what is.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes. So I found that so interesting how back then I was doing that in your program and I didn't even know it.
Yes. Well, we kind of, in the basic part of the program, we kind of back people into it. But right now we still are in the basic program, but in our more advanced programs, we just go right for the love and the acceptance, because love is the universal solvent.
Mm.
It dissolves all. And at the same time, love is everything. Everything you hear, taste, touch, feel, experience, that is already love. It just doesn't always appear that way.
But what I wanted to say was, yes, when I did the program back in the early 2000s, what it helped me so much, because that was kind of like I learned the Course in Miracles, all this stuff, and then I started doing the Sedona method. It was very early on in my spiritual path.
Uh-huh.
And but what I loved about it was the practicality of it.
Yes, it's very practical.
Even with the practice with the holding of the pen and just letting it go, it was like, oh my God, that's just,
yeah.
it could be that easy.
Yes,
it
is that easy.
it is. And definitely when I was doing the practice, I was able to let go of a lot of stuff that was in the way, which I was very grateful for. Unfortunately, life got in the way. I wasn't doing the practice all the time. And it wasn't as powerful. Like when I first
yes, but that happens in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. Practices come and go.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the one question I had for you
Sure.
is like everything with practice, it just, you kind of evolve with it, I guess.
Yes.
Or you're more open. At least I see it for myself, more open to what is.
Yes.
But yet there's always still that struggle, like with beliefs and like right now I'm really struggling with physical pain, different parts of my body with physical pain. And to me, I feel like that's just, that's been a huge block for me, because I feel like, okay, when it comes to beliefs, things that I've been conditioned to believe, it feels like there's, even though it's not easy, I feel like it feels like it's easier to let that go than like a physical thing that you're struggling with. And I was hoping that you could maybe
Sure.
do a release on like physical pain.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. But let me just do something with you first, that directly with you. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just check. Are you a Marisol, or are you beingness? Just look at your direct experience.
If I'm going to be honest right now, I believe myself to be a Marisol.
Yes, you believe yourself to be a Marisol, but I'm not asking you what you believe. Just asking you to look at your own direct experience. Are you actually a Marisol? Or are you that beingness that all is?
I'm smiling inside because I sense what you're saying.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm. But it's funny. It's like, I don't want to completely admit it, but yes.
Yeah, well, you don't have to. I don't care if you admit it or not.
Yes. I feel, yes, it's funny because it's like, yeah, Marisol is just a concept and an idea.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's just a concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based on memory. It's all based on what was or what might be. It's just a story about what was and what might be. But what is beyond the name. It just is. And when you really looked at it as opposed to thought about it, you could feel that. There was a resonance with what is.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And notice how differently the body-mind feels now.
It's like a humor around it and like a light to it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes. Absolutely.
But the pain is still there.
No, that's okay. That's okay. See, is it Marisol's pain as much as it was before, or is it just a sensation?
The body's pain.
Right, the body has sensations, absolutely. But anyway, don't worry about that, or worry about it if you want. But let's actually do a process that everyone can do together. And that is, it's combining welcoming with holistic releasing. And And what that is very simple. I'll ask you to welcome whatever it's, and everyone do this, whether or not you're experiencing any pain. You don't have to create pain in order to do this process. It also is very powerful for just opening and relaxing the body-mind. And so what you do, we're going to do is, excuse me, first he's going to have a drink. What we'll do together is we'll welcome whatever sensations we're experiencing, and then we'll welcome the emptiness or the space or the isness that the sensations are appearing in or on or as. Or we'll simply welcome the parts of our body that are sensation free. Because even when we're having extreme pain in a part of our body, it seems to fill our whole body, but it never does. It just seems that way. So there's always parts of the body that are sensation free. So you can focus either on that or on just the emptiness or the space that all is, the nothingness. So in this moment, could you just simply pause or stop and notice what is apparently happening? And then could you welcome whatever sensations you're experiencing in this moment? Could you just let them be here as best you can? And then could you welcome the emptiness or the space, the isness, the parts of your body that are sensation free? And then could you welcome whatever sensations you're experiencing in this moment? And then could you welcome the emptiness or the space? And or could you welcome the parts of your body that are sensation free? And again, could you welcome whatever sensations you're experiencing in this moment? And then could you welcome the emptiness or the space, the beingness? Or, if that's too much of a stretch, just simply the parts of your body that are sensation free. It leads to the same place. And again, could you welcome whatever sensations are being experienced in this moment? And then could you welcome the emptiness or the space, the isness, the beingness? Okay, good. So if you were doing this on your own, you keep going back and forth until the contraction around the pain disappeared. There could be still strong sensation, but the sense of it being painful can dissolve completely. So how was that?
That was good. And I remember that practice in the Sedona method. And I remember doing it and how helpful it was. So I'm going to have to go back and listen. I have them on CD. So I'm going to have to listen to my CDs.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I remember it was like holding both of them in the same space.
Yes,
how
yes.
incredibly helpful that was.
Yes.
And also I remember the practice of like not wanting something to happen and speaking it like, do I want that to happen? Like I like an example of do I want to get sick?
Right.
That was super helpful too. So
Yes,
thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for asking your question.
Thank you, Marisol.
So before you call on the next
Yes,
before you
yes.
call on the next person, I just want to explain that one thing she
Thank you.
referenced. There's a very simple technique for quickly dissolving fear. And anytime we're afraid of something, is because we're subconsciously or even consciously expecting it to happen. And the stronger the fear, often the stronger the expectation. So sometimes it's hard to let go of the fear. Some people find it hard to let go of fear directly, but letting go of the expectation or the desire for it to happen is easier. And that's a way you can release fear, by letting go of expecting or wanting it to happen. Whatever it is you're afraid of will happen. And
That's a pretty radical statement, Hale, that what we fear we actually want to happen. I'm not sure I can make that leap. Can you?
Sure. How it works is sometimes things happen that we don't like, or we see them happen to somebody else, or we're someone we knew had cancer, for instance, and we go, oh, I hope that doesn't happen to me. But the mind doesn't translate not or never or don't. We're expecting it to happen. That's a wanting without realizing it. And also, when we're wanting to change anything that is, that wanting to change it doesn't change it. It's just holding it in mind. It's a lock on it, as you know from the work that you do with people. So when you let go of wanting to change it, it will either change or it doesn't, but there's a sense of acceptance of what is as it is, a love of what is as it is. And so anyway, the fear has sometimes you can actually sense the desire for that thing to happen that you're afraid of, but always you can sense the expectation. So don't worry about it so much, but that's the explanation for that.
Thank you. Lana?
Hi, Hal. Thank you
Hi.
for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I see Lester's picture behind you,
Yes.
and I'm a big fan. And I read his biography about 20 years ago and was
Great.
totally blown away. And I was wondering if you could tell his story of how he...
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I noticed I didn't get a chance to do that in the beginning. So I knew Lester from 1976 until 1992 when he died. And so I spent, I think that was 16 years, 18 years, I don't remember. But at any rate, it was a long time. And we were very close. That's probably why he wanted me to continue the teachings. So the story goes like this. Back in 1952, Lester was sent home to die from a second coronary. But rather than give up, he decided, he was a physicist engineer, and he actually also studied psychology, but nothing spiritual. He thought if he couldn't prove it physically, it wasn't real. And so the doctor sent him home to his penthouse apartment on Central Park South in Manhattan, and said, Lester, get your life in order. You only have a few weeks to live. And kind of scared him half to death. But after moping around and debating about committing suicide for a few days, he said, Lester, for a smart boy, you are stupid, stupid, stupid. And so he decided, instead of going back to all the information and knowledge he had from the past, he decided to just inquire into what's real and true. And as he did that, miraculously, things started to drop away. He started to discover this way of letting go that was later distilled into the process called the Sedona method. And he used it on himself intensively over a 3-month period. And after that, there was an intense, continuous state of peace that he lived in for another 42 years after the doctors gave him weeks. And his body completely healed. And when I met him in 76, I remember playing tennis with him in Central Park in Manhattan. And when he didn't remember his age, he could wipe me off the court. Occasionally he'd remember, oh yeah, I'm in my 60s. I shouldn't be like this. And then he would slow down, but then he'd forget again, and he'd be playing tennis like when he first learned it as a teenager. And he was always this incredible, loving, open, peaceful presence. It was such an honor to be around him. And I'm deeply grateful and honored that he asked me to continue his work. It was requested. I actually resisted it because I felt unworthy, but he kept insisting. And finally I said, okay. But it turned out okay, because when Lester gave me the teachings, there were only a few thousand people worldwide doing this. And now hundreds of thousands of people in every country on the planet do it. So it was probably a good decision on his part.
Thank you for that. I actually visited his grave when I went to Cottonwoods, close to Sedona in Arizona.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we used to own a retreat center there. That's where we buried him.
Yeah, I was there. Thank you. Just one quick follow-up on, but before the heart attack, he was kind of a type A, very personality.
He was very successful, but very hard driving. He was very hard on himself and everyone around him. And he had jaundice several times a year. He had migraine headaches. He had diverticulitis, perforated ulcers. He was a physical and emotional wreck. He actually had a few years of therapy with someone who trained with Freud, and the therapist fired him. He said, "Lester, some people can't be helped. I can't do anything for you. You're hopeless." But he used that same intensity when he started discovering truth. He used that same intensity to really go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Lana, for asking that question. Yeah, it's great to hear more about your teacher, Hale.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Anish has a follow-up question, I understand.
Sure.
Hey, just a quick clarification. You can hear me well, right?
Yes.
So you gave us an example about the mind saying, I don't want cancer. What should the question be like? So should I say, instead of saying, I don't want cancer, what is it that I'm supposed to do so that I don't attract?
So what you do is you focus on health and well-being as opposed to cancer. You let go of your fear of cancer, your resistance to cancer, your beliefs about cancer, your everything you've been told about cancer. You basically let all that go. You don't deny it. But what you focus on is, my body is healthy. My body is sound. And you don't just think about it. You feel it as best you can. You see it as best you can. You engage all your senses. And in doing that, it will bring up all the thoughts and feelings and ideas to the contrary, and you just let them go. You keep letting them go.
So I don't have to create a question about cancer, meaning, do I really want cancer? And then
no.
I just have to just completely ignore it, is what you're saying, because
no. If you have a diagnosis, you need to do whatever the doctor or practitioner says to do about it. But many of us have either self-diagnosed ourselves, or the internet's great for that, or where we have a relative or someone we know who has cancer, and then every time we have some similar symptom, we go, oh my God, now I have it. So at those times, you release whatever that's coming up inside. And it's not a denial or any pretense at all. The last thing that the Sedona method suggests is you pretend that everything's okay. It should be a living experience. And it becomes more your living experience as you let go. You naturally start to love what is as it is, without effort.
Got it. So focus on the things that you really want is what you're saying, or focus as if you already have it instead of
Yes, exactly.
negating what you don't want.
Exactly. Instead of being there's a side story about the movie and book The Secret. I have a very small part in the Secret movie because the main focus is the law of attraction, and that's such a small part of what we do that I didn't really have much to say about it. But I spent an hour and a half with Rhonda being interviewed on camera with her, but she kept asking me about the Sedona method because she has Lester Levinson had the predecessor book to what's now called Happiness is Free. It was called Keys to the Ultimate Freedom. And she still has that book on her nightstand decades later. So she was really wanting to talk about releasing. So that's what we talked about. And at the very end, said, "Oh, I need to ask you about the law of attraction because this first movie. I'm going to be doing others and other things. This first one is on the law of attraction. I'd like you to be in the movie, so you can get some benefit from that." So she asked me what it is, and I didn't really get into that so much. But what I did is I said, "Be for what you'd like instead of against what you don't like or don't want." And so that was the basis of a whole segment of she created a whole segment around that because she thought it was important, but also she wanted to make sure I'd be in the movie and in the book. But it's only 30 seconds of the movie, but because every one of the teachers had similar things to say. So it became a whole way of sorting through that film was not planned out whatsoever. She just did a series of interviews with us, and then she cobbled the movie together from that. There was no script at all. It came out of just the interviews.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely movie.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. You have talked, Hale, about what naturally arises, and one of the things that struck me was you talked about the compassion that naturally arises out of doing this releasing work, and I wonder if you would address that.
Oh, sure. What is natural is love and compassion. It's what happens spontaneously when the contraction and the hatefulness drops away. What's left after that, and it's there before that too, is this sense of love and compassion and acceptance for what is as it is. And at the same time, whatever is experienced is that love, even hate. There is only one love, and all is that. All of it, not just the parts you like, not just the parts you agree with, not just the parts that agree with you, all of it. Again, to go back to the analogy I used before, the trees behind you are a love treeing.
Yes. It's everything and the process of everything, and everything is the process.
Yes, everything is just what's apparently happening.
Yes. It looks like we've got 8 minutes, and I wanted to ask what you wanted to share with us. I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to share what you want to share with us before you go.
Oh, well, just that you are already wholeness. You are already freedom. You are already beingness, not in your sense of personhood, but as all, as everything and nothing, as this which is apparently happening. And also remember that thoughts and feelings are just that. They're not you. They're not the truth. And you can let them go. I highly encourage you to use the tools that we went into so far to continue to support yourself in any way you can. And just be open to that which is natural, that which is already. And if you want to learn more, it's sedona.com. That's really easy to remember, the sedona.com. And the Sedona Method Facebook page has quotes from me and Lester every day, and it has video. Our YouTube page has hundreds of videos, and there's new posts every week. I also have a podcast called Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, and I've interviewed many people that I think you'd recognize.
Yes.
Including almost everyone from The Secret, and almost everyone from the book The Greatest Secret, and many other teachers and luminaries and thought leaders. And a new episode is posted every week, both on Facebook and wherever podcasts are served. So, and that's all free. And there are free materials on the Sedona Method site called sedona.com. There's free materials on Facebook. There's free materials on YouTube. And of course, if you want to go further, we have courses and events and programs you can participate with. But that's totally up to you. It's no concern of mine. You either will do it or you won't.
That's right. I do have a question about your podcast and all the folks that you interview.
Yes.
And I just wonder if that's how the Sedona Method expanded from its original content.
Oh no, the podcast is new. Well, I think we've done 60 some odd episodes. So I just started that after Rhonda released the book that I was in and Lester is in. Lester's the most quoted teacher. Lester Levinson, this guy. This guy. He's the most quoted teacher in Rhonda's book, The Greatest Secret.
Wow.
He's on almost every page. And when I knew that was coming out, I thought, it'd be fun to interview the teachers from The Secret and the Greatest Teachers, The Greatest Secret, and other people who have wonderful things to share. So, and a lot of these were already my friends, people I knew. So I decided to do a podcast around talking about that. So this is a very new thing. It's not even been 2 years of doing it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of familiar faces there. I look forward to viewing those podcasts.
Yes. So you can view them on the Sedona Method YouTube page, or they're also on Amazon. They're on what's it called? Audible. They're also on Apple and all the other, and they're totally free. Of course, it's a podcast. I guess some people charge for their podcast, but we don't.
Yes. And I just want to I want to quote you from your book, The Sedona Methods. You said, one of the things that impresses me most about the process of releasing is that it has resulted in a sense of unshakable peace, happiness, joy, and calmness that is always with me, no matter what's going on around me. And I assume we can all have that same experience.
Well, I'm not the only one who has that experience. There's many, many, many thousands all over the world. And just be patient with yourself. Whatever practice or process you're using, there'll be good days and bad days. We'll all click and hold together. And other days it feels like you never accomplished anything. And you've gone back to zero. And no, that's just the nature of life. There are waves. Sometimes everything seems like it's in harmony, and sometimes it doesn't. But just be open at least to the possibility that no matter how life appears in this moment, no matter what is apparently happening, there is already perfection. Lester used to say, see the perfection where the seeming imperfection seems to be. And what he meant by that is that even if we can't see it in the moment, there is this love and this beauty and this harmony and this boundlessness that is actually everything you see around you and experiencing within you. It already is that. It may not always feel that way, and when it doesn't, use the tools you know to help you get back to that within yourself. But remember, there's nowhere to go and nothing you need to do in order to be what already is. You already are all. You already are boundlessness. You already are freedom. It's not something you have to work at. It's not something you even need to be aware of. It already is. And the staying open to that, at least as a possibility, is really fun. It really opens things up. And it becomes natural.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
It's been lovely. Okay. I think that does it for us tonight. We're very, very grateful.
Thank you for watching this Satsang. We'd love to have you join us live in our sanctuary for our next installment. If you'd like more information about our community that's based on non-dual teachings, you can visit us at awakening-together.org. We would love to see you in the sanctuary. Have a wonderful day.